So today we have come to the last day of with by God's grace. It has happened that everything so far has gone so beautifully because as Yudhishthira had told Krishna at the time of his Rajasoya that I surrender everything to you, you have to carry this Rajasoya through to a brilliant conclusion. So also, I had also, and my sister too, had totally surrendered at the feet of the Lord and told him, you alone have to do this for us because it's a new thing for us. We had never done it before. And so he has taken over everything. He has taken over the health of all of you sitting here because so many things could have happened. All of us could have, we could have got ill, we could have had falls, we could have, so many things could have happened. But except for that first day when you were held up, I think all your bad karmas were removed by that first day sitting in the airport for 4 hours. So now we have to be so grateful to God for this. And today we are coming to that last adhyayam, 11th skanda, which is called Ashram. Of course, all the skandas are Ashram because that is total dependence and surrender only to Him alone. That is Ashram. So in this, yesterday we said that after having seen that all the things had been arranged for the final scene of his the destruction of his own clan, and Uddhava was not there at that time, and he came rushing up to him when he heard this and said, "Oh Lord, I hear that you have decided to leave this earth because I fear that you have. Had you not decided, you would have tried. You could easily have taken away the curse of the rishis. You could have easily have stopped the Yadavas from becoming so proud and becoming so unruly. But the very fact that you did nothing to prevent all this shows me that you have decided to quit this world. I don't care about that. I don't care about anything. But one thing, the only thing I do care is, please don't leave me behind. Naham tadangrigamlam kshanadamavikeshava tyaktum samutsahenada sudamanayanamapi. I cannot even imagine a life living without you, even for a second. Oh Lord, please take me with you wherever you're going. Having lived with you throughout your life, throughout my life, having eaten the remains of the food that you ate, having worn the clothes that you wore the previous day, having worn the garlands that you chucked away the previous day, having eaten and slept and walked and talked with you all my life, how can I bear to leave you and go now? Please take me with you, he said. So the Lord said, yes, indeed, Uddhava, I have decided that I'm going to leave this place because my work here is done. But yours is not yet finished, my friend. You have still something to go through. So you have to go away from here. You have to leave me and go towards Badrinath. And there you have to take a bath in the Alagananda, icy cold waters of the Alagananda, and the boiling hot waters of the Taptakund. And thus, having tempered your whole mind and intellect and totally invested it in me, you will have to end your days in such a manner. So Uddhava says, my Lord, he said, I'm not fit for sannyas. I'm too worldly. Because I have never thought of taking up sannyas. I have always been engrossed in this worldly life. How can I do this, he says. So he says, Uddhava, I will tell you, I will give you all instructions how you can take away all your attractions and all your dependence and all your desires towards the world, and how you will eventually get, definitely you will get liberation. So he calls him, Yogesha, Yoga Vitnyasa, Yogatman, Yoga Sambhava, O thou bestower of the fruits of yoga, O the wealth of the yogins, O thou who reveals yourself through yoga, O the originator of yoga. Luckily for us, thank God, Bhagavan has not come here in Rishikesh at this time and sees the type of yoga that is being practiced here, because he would get a rather rude shock, I'm sure, because the word yoga has been battered about beyond all conception. We cannot imagine how yoga has been degenerated to some sort of. We can even see yoga being practiced in the middle of the Ganga. That is a new technique which somebody has devised, because anything and everything goes by the name of yoga. So he says, "Oh Lord, you are the very master of yoga. You are the Lord of all yogis." But I don't think, as I said, he is a master of these yogis who practice yoga over here. However, let us go on to the rest of our this thing. He says, "All right, I will give you. I will tell you the story of Avadud, which and our own ancestor Yadu. He was walking along one day and he met an Avadud, a totally naked sannyasi, who was looking in the prime of his life, absolutely fit and totally, but he had not a care in the world. This man, he walked about totally unconcerned with anything, which always filled with bliss. And Yadu asks him, "How is it that you who have nothing at all, not even a pot of your own to hold some food, yet you are still filled with bliss? How is it that one can be like this?" So yeah, the Avadut said, Avadut was really none else but Dattatreya, the great Rishi. So he said, "O king," he said, the fact is that God has given all of us intelligence and ability to find out what are the things which are best for us. He has given us the intelligence to find out just by looking at the world around us. He doesn't even have to go searching for a guru, because the gurus are all around us. There is no dearth of gurus around here. I mean, we all know that, but apart from that, he said there are gurus which are available to us in the earth itself. The world itself gives us, and our body itself gives us all the gurus we want. The first, he told, and he gives him the list of 24 gurus who have helped him to attain his state of mind. First are the 5 elements itself. The 5 elements itself are the greatest of the gurus, he said, because from the earth I learned that the yogi has to be patient and bear with anything that you can be. How do we insult and how do we treat the earth we are born on? We can kick it, we can walk on it, we dig it, we spit on it. There's nothing we do not do on this earth. And yet I've learned she bears this all very patiently. So my first guru is the earth itself. Then from the air I learned that the yogi should go about freely as the air. The air, however, yet he can be totally he need not take the negative qualities of the places that he has to pass through. The air passes through sometimes foul smell, sometimes in a garden of roses, sometimes in a pond of filth, and yet the air remains the same as it is. It carries it for a while and then that it clears itself of everything. Next, he says, the sky itself is that is Akasha itself is this thing. The Akasha, again, it is totally, it is so subtle. It abides everywhere. It is in all things, and yet nothing can defile it, nothing can harm it, nothing can hurt it. So also the yogi, though he goes everywhere, he is never connected, or he is never caught in the mesh of the web of the earth. Next, he says, from water I learned that the purity and clarity and the sublimity of water, which makes you, which is such a very important part of our life. So without water, one cannot live. So from that water, I realized that the yogi should be available to everyone for their use, but never for his own desires, never for his own desires. And he should always be clear and pure and perfect all the time. And from fire, I learned that fire, there's nothing. The fire is so pure in itself that anything you can throw in it and it will still, it will burn the whole thing up. You can put sandalwood into the fire, you can put fecal matter into the fire, but at the end, only ashes will remain, nothing, and you can never say whether what it was, whether it is sandalwood or fecal matter. That is why those ashes are purified. That's why Lord Shiva, you will find, always wears the ashes. And what ashes does he wear? Does he put? The ashes got from the burning gods, especially in Ujjain, that that temple is just beside the burning ghat. So the bhasmam which is put on Shiva is got from that burning ghat, meaning to say everything turns to ashes in the end, nothing remains. Everything turns to ashes, and those ashes are pure, purified. There's nothing left out of that. And so also the yogi should be of such a type that nothing stays, everything, whatever he does, whatever actions he does, eventually that it will be only purified ashes. Then he says, from the sun itself I learned that sun gives to everyone, regardless whether it is a friend or foe or enemy or a saint or a criminal or murderer. He does not discriminate between any of these things. The sun shines equally on all. Similarly, the yogi should look with an equal eye on the whole of creation. He should never discriminate between man and man. Then from the moon, he says, the moon is so, it's the purity of the moon that it because of the rays which comes from the moon, or the whole of the plant life is nourished by the rays of the moon. So also the yogi should, wherever he walks, by his very presence, he should nourish everything in there. Then he says, from the dove, a little pigeon, dove, I learned the importance of detachment from family and friends, and especially from family. There was a little dove once, and they were two doves. They were a happily married couple, and they used to be so happy and flying about. And then the female dove laid some eggs in her, and they were so happy and cooing in delight. And then the babies came, and they got even more happy, and they used to fly off to get some food for the little babies who were sitting in the nest. And one day when they both came back, they saw to their horror that a fowler had come and captured the baby birds, had fallen into the net of the fowler. The mother beat its breast. The mother had came back first. And the mother beat its breast, flapped its wings, and went round and round and round to this thing, crying and shrieking and wailing. And eventually she was so upset that she went too close to the net, and she also fell into it. Next came the father, and the father was desperate. He said, oh, my family, my wife, my beautiful children, how can I ever live without these? He tried his best to flap his wings and trying to get them. He cried and cried, but they could not be released. And because of his enormous attachment to that family of his, he also fell into the net. He, on his own volition, he jumped into the net, so that he could die with the rest of his family. Next, you see the python is the one he did. He says the python, the yogi should never be searching for food all the time. The whole of animal kingdom searches for food all the time. What do? They're looking for food here, there, all the time. This morning when I was doing puja in the temple, suddenly one long hand came out from somewhere and grabbed the fruit I'd kept for the gods. So they're always on the lookout, always. Where is food? Where is food? So they run around all the time looking for food. So the python alone is different. The python is said to be lying down with his mouth open all the time. If a prey comes and falls into it, like rats and things like that, then he eats it up. If he doesn't, then he says, okay, that's it. And he stays like that. So like the python, the yogi should not be constantly looking for people who can give him food, like these yogis who stand around here all the time looking to see who's coming next, who's that next. Dum, 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 dum. They say put, money. That is the type of yogis you get, most of the yogis you get here. So then he says, next the ocean. The ocean is amazing. It even though it is ever, it always keeps its equilibrium. Nothing ever disturbs it. Rivers may come into it, rivers may, waters may go above it, I mean, evaporate from it, and rivers keep going. But it is not dependent on rivers for its equilibrium. So also, not like us, we are like the mud, puddles of during the rain. Suddenly you will find little ponds and puddles during monsoons, and they're totally dependent on the rain which is coming. When the rain goes, they dry up. Similarly, we are totally dependent on these objects, sense objects which come fill us with delight. If these objects are not there, we are down. The ocean, however, is never dependent on anything. It keeps its equilibrium and its height or whatever it is, without any dependence on the rivers or anything. So then he says that then the next is the river. Yogi should be like the river. The river is ever flowing. It never stays stagnant in one place. It's ever flowing. So also the yogi should not stick in one place. The moment he sticks in one place, then next day somebody comes and gives him a cup of milk. Another day somebody comes and gives him a fruit. And next day if nobody comes, he's on the lookout. Is somebody coming here to give me something? And slowly attachment grows. And that's the end of the fall of that yogi. The river keeps flowing until it reaches the ocean of. So also the yogi should keep going until it reaches the ocean of bliss, which is the Lord Himself. Then he says next the different types of creatures. He says like the moth, for instance. The moth is attracted by the flame, which is always, and that attraction for that fire, in it gets burnt. So similarly, like the moth, we should avoid any type of attractive things which might entice us and eventually make us fall. Next, there is a honeybee. He says, honeybee goes around he takes only a little bit of honey from flower to flower to flower, taking a little bit. So also the yogi should not always depend on one person to give all the food that he needs. He should take only a little bit from each household, so that he does not do too much problem on them. He doesn't prove to be a problem for them. So that is the honeybee. But there's a negative thing also for the honeybee. Like the honeybee, you should not hoard, because the honeybee keeps hoarding and hoarding and hoarding the little bits of honey. He keeps on hoarding it, and eventually what happens? Is he the one who's to enjoy that honey? No, we are the ones who enjoy the honey, because the honey gatherer comes and burns him up, and he dies also, perishes in the fact that he is because of despite all the work he has done, he never gets to taste even a drop of that honey. So the yogi also should remember this. Then the elephant, he says, is a sense of touch which catches the elephant. When these elephant people go around, how do they catch him? By the sense of touch. They keep the she elephant there, and she's supposed to, touch him and make him, and then he falls into the pit and perishes. Similarly, you should be very careful never to touch even a wooden figure of a woman. The yogi should never even touch even a wooden figure of a woman, because that will bring his own downfall. Then as a honey gatherer, it has always been said already, he gathers honey, but he never gets anything for himself. The deer is supposed to have a sense of hearing is acute in the deer. So the man who wants to catch the deer, he puts some beautiful music apparently, some sort of a strange, they have a call of the female deer, and then the deer is enticed by that, and the hunter will catch it. Then the fish is enticed by the sense of taste. It is swimming about in the water, and he sees the little hook with something tasty on it, some wriggling worm or something, and see how when we think of eating up some worms, we shudder in horror. But for the fish is the best, delightful little repast. So then the fish is called due to his sense of taste. So you see, then the Tathagata tells him, All animals at least have only one sort of sense. Of these five senses, there's only one sense which is very, very strong in them. But the human being, all the senses, all the five senses are so strong. All of them are pulling us from place to place to place. And so imagine the problems that a human being will have in order to avoid all these troubles, he said. Now the next is Pingala, the prostitute. He said when he was going through a city and he saw a woman called Pingala. She was a very beautiful woman, and all the great people of the land used to go to her after 6 o'clock. She would always be hanging over her gate, waiting to see which is the chariot which is going to stop here. Who are the people who are going to come here? All the time she was waiting and for somebody to come, and every day somebody or other would always come. But one day the yogi was standing there and watching her, and nobody came. She waited and waited and waited. Up till midnight she waited in the hope that at least one man would come around at that time. Nobody came. At last, for her, because of her good fortune, she thought to herself. She said, "Oh, this is I'm so fortunate indeed that nobody has come, because I have been running after this stick with bones, with stuck with flesh and blood, thinking that is too supreme. I have thought that my enjoyment can come when was only this figure of a man, when the Lord himself, he who is full of bliss, who will give me anything, liberation from this mortal coils. Why have I spent my whole life running after these males who will always cheat me, who will always deceitful, and will eventually leave me, when I have God himself as my lover? Why should I not go?" And that is the nirasha, how Pingala got totally disgusted with the life that she was leading, and she became a great saint. That in this respect, I could tell you a story. There were two. There was this thing. There was a not this particular one, but in a city there was a prostitute living in the house there, and a great yogi living here. And all the time, the yogi would look out and say, "Look at that woman. Who are these men who are coming there? Look at her, how terrible she is." And the prostitute, on the other hand, would be looking at them, "Oh, look at that yogi, how great he is. So many great people come to see him. And he gives such advice to everybody. What a wonderful life is, and what a terrible life I'm leading." Yet there was nothing she could do about it, since it was her, it was her career, in other words. Then they both died, and the fact is that the yogi's body was taken in great style. Everybody, in a palanquin, and everybody following with lots of garlands and roses and sandalwood. He was carried. When she died, she was simply thrown into the dust heap, as it were, because nobody could bother with her once she had died. But it is said that when she entered heaven before the yogi, it is said. And when Chitragupta was asked, why is it that, yogi asked very, very sternly, why is it that this woman who has committed so much of crimes in her life, why is she being allowed to enter this system when I'm given only second place? So he's supposed to have answered, well, the thing is, she has always, though her body was committing sins, her mind was constantly on the Lord, and was always thinking how great you are, how wonderful it is to be a great soul. Whereas you, though your body seemed to be great, and you were sitting there in great style, and everybody was bowing to you, your mind was always fixed on this woman who was living in front of you, on always blaming her, and always thinking of all the mean things that that she was doing and all that. So naturally, your body, which has been done something that is being given great honor by everybody. Her body, which has been unfaithful, has been thrown into the dust heap. But her mind, her soul, has risen up to God. So the idea that we should always, the thoughts or the attitude which we have to life is what is more important. So then again he says the yogi should never have possess anything which is very, very other people desire, which is so beautiful, so wonderful that everybody else desires it. And he gives the story of the osprey, how his osprey was another guru of his. Ospreys, you must see them very often. You see them flying about. They're like an eagle. Now, one day an osprey had managed to get a bit of meat in his beak, and he flew off, and all the other carrion birds were after him, worrying him and pecking at him and shouting at him and so on. Eventually, the osprey realized that they were not after him, but they were after the piece of meat that he was carrying. And the moment he dropped that meat, they all went away on their own. This thing. And so also the yogi should never possess something which is of great value to other people, because then he will always be the envy of others and they will come to bother him. Then he gives of the maiden who was of marriageable age. She was in the house alone when a set of people came to meet her parents and to settle a marriage for her. So at that time they were a very poor people, and then she had to, as soon as the people came, she herself had to pound the rice and cook and everything, because there was nobody else in the house. Now, when she was pounding behind, she had worn a lot of bangles, and the bangles came ting, cling, 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 ting, cling, ting, and she then realized, oh my God, these people will think that this is a very poor household, and I myself, the maiden they've come to marry her, she herself has to do all the servants' work. So one by one, she took off her bangles, and eventually only two remained, and even that made a sound. So even that she broke, and only one remained, and then there was no sound at all. So this yogi learned the fact that, a yogi should never travel in company, because then there's always talking to each other, and some tamasha will be going on all the time. Only if he is alone by himself, then he will have no cause of unnecessary talk, and his mind will be always fixed on God alone. Then eventually, then another one, when he was going through another city, he saw an arrowsmith. The arrowsmith was so concentrated. He was busy doing something to the arrow. At that time, a huge procession of the king was passing along the road. Big noise and trumpets blowing and drums and so on. And the arrowsmith didn't even look up. So the yogi went up to him and said, wasn't that a beautiful procession of the king which is passing by? And the arrowsmith, what procession, what king? Because he was so concentrated on that, he didn't even notice the procession was past. So also the yogi should be totally concentrated on God in his meditation, and not be constantly aware of who's that coming through that door, who's that entering here, and what are they talking about there. So that is another thing. Then he says the snake. The snake, he says, the yogi should never have a permanent residence of his own, because the moment you make a house, the house possesses you. Constantly you're thinking, how is that house? What's happening there? Will it burn down? Have I left the key in the right place? Have I left the fridge open? Now all these various worries come, but the yogi should never own a house. That's the snake. That is the lesson he learned from the snake. The snake, it is said, never has a house of its own. It always goes and makes his house in something which has been a hole dug by rats or something like that. So he never has a house of his own. And then he says of the spider, he watched the beautiful web of the spider, and he realized that this is how the Lord brings the whole of creation. This entire beautiful web is brought out of the spider himself. The spider, out of his own little spit, it comes out in whole beautiful webs you can see. And at the end it is said the spider also withdraws it into himself. So that is how he says, that is how the Lord, I realize now that this is how he creates a world out of himself, and then at the end of dissolution he withdraws it into himself. Then again, the last thing he says is the wasp. The wasp, it is said that we really don't know whether it's true or not. The wasp takes the egg of a butterfly and puts it in this thing and puts mud and all, and puts it in there, completely imprisons it. And then it is said that he keeps on poking it, and he gets so that the little creature inside is so terrified of it that it takes a form of the wasp itself. Because he's always concentrating, always thinking of that wasp. Similarly, the yogi who thinks always on God alone, he also will get the form of the of God Himself. Finally, he says, "My body itself was my last." Teacher. My body told me that, it's such a marvelous machine, this body which God has created for us. And unless we treat it properly, it will give us trouble. While if you do treat it properly, it will serve us as a faithful servant till the end of our life. So that also is our gurus, which he has described, are very famous because these are things which we also can. God has, as he says, God has given us intelligence to look around us in the world and discover these gurus, because we don't need to go searching for the gurus. God has given us the intelligence to find out from the world itself what are the things you should avoid, what are the things you should encourage and make it as a lesson for us. So now we will read the rest of the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So then he continues with his advice to Uddhava. Uddhava tells him that even Avadhut can easily capture these things, I know, but for me, I know nothing. I've been totally dependent on you all my life. I know nothing. I can only do what you have told me. Nothing else can I do of my own accord, because have totally surrendered to you. So he says, don't worry, Uddhava, he says, and it gives him all this thing of Sankhya and Yoga and all that. But all these things, as Uddhava says, are too difficult for him to follow. So he says the best approach to him is through satsang. Satsang, he says, is a satsang means, what is satsang? Satsang is the meeting with great souls, noble souls. But what is the great thing about such souls? They will automatically turn your mind to God. Whereas if you go and stay with people who are worldly minded, they will always be telling you what sort of saris are available, what sort of a hairstyle is there, and what somebody else whose son is interested in whose daughter, and what is the price of onions in the market. This is a sort of talk which we will normally have when we go with worldly minded people. But this quality of satsang is that they will always be talking to you of something which makes you go above your own body, above yourself. And he says, in fact, even can hear. Even people who are very low, like animals, like Gajendra, people who had no education, no nothing, like the gopis themselves. All these people, how did they gain such? He says, Matsangena. He said, not even satsang, Matsangena. Due to association with me alone, these gopis were raised to the highest order of Avadudas. So this is something which is easy enough for all, because the best satsang is with God Himself. And where is God? He is within you. There was a book called Conversation with God. Now this is a conversation, this man thinks he's the only one he can converse with God. But that sort of a conversation is something which every one of us can carry on all the time, because God is always listening carefully to you. He doesn't leave you to go and do something. Maybe you're talking to another person, they hardly ever listen. They may be listening and then they go off on their own, problems and what they suffered from the same sickness 10 years ago and how they got cured through something else. And everything will be slowly turned towards their own mamta and ahamta and mamatva and ahamtva. So this is the usual case with all, but God alone was always with you. You can carry on a conversation with Him all the time instead of thinking of all other unnecessary things. He said, this is something which we can do all the time. Look, Krishna, I have to go there. They say I have to go tomorrow to such a place. Do you think it's a good idea for me to go? And well, wait, perhaps sometime you will get some answer from him. He will automatically give you the path you are supposed to take. Keep talking to God constantly. He's ever there. He never switches off his, hotline to him. We all sometimes turn off in the night. He never switches it off. That's one, from the beginning is something. We have had this hotline to him from the time we were born. We don't realize that, but ever anxious to please you in all ways, listen to you in all ways and advise you in all ways. So God alone is the one who can help you most. So satsang is the greatest of all methods of attaining me or Deva. So never think that, oh, I can't do this, I am too stupid to follow all these different paths which are given, all the yogas and all that which are given. What shall I do? He said, with bhakti alone is the greatest, the fifth purushartha. With bhakti alone, you will gain everything that a person needs to be gained. And he says, oh Deva, though so many people come to offer me so many things, yet there is no devotee, O Deva, as beloved to me as you. No, even Lakshmi, even my brother Balrama, or even anyone else you can think of, is not so dear to me as you, O Deva. Because as such a devotee like you, I myself will follow in his footsteps, because the dust arising from his steps will purify me, not having catered enough to his wants, he says. So Uddhava, of course, is filled with tears. He said, oh Lord, he says, how am I to get such a bhakti, he says. So he says, you are already a bhakta of the highest order, Uddhava. You listen to me. You understand that even though so many different types of pujas or something are in here, so Uddhava says, at least let me tell me, how should I do puja to you? What are the things I should do? Because I like to serve you in some form or other. So he describes all the different types of pujas, how to meditate, how to take your the prana from chakra to chakra until you gain a total sublimation of the whole thing in the final chakra, from the heart chakra to the throat chakra, and eventually it's the Sahasrara chakra. So these are the many forms, he says. But Uddhava says, I cannot do all this, O Lord. Don't tell me such difficult things. I'm not fit for such things. So again he tells Uddhava, Uddhava, do not fear. One drop from your eyes is more precious to me than any diamond which I can offer. Because again he says, he describes the different types of pujas also. How are the different types of things you need and how you have to offer this and how the method of offering. And Uddhava says, I don't know all these things. Supposing I don't have. Supposing I'm walking in a desert where I can't even get a single drop of water or a drop of flower to offer to you. That is the time he tells him, Uddhava, will your tears have dried up? He says. Surely your tears would not have dried up, even if you're walking the sea. Even one drop from the eyes of my devotee is more precious to me than anything that anyone can offer me. So Uddhava, of course, his tears were flowing from his eyes, and he says, oh Lord, I don't know, I'm frightened. I'm not frightened of Maya, because Maya has no more method of catching me. I'm only frightened of not being with you. I'm only frightened of life without you. So again and again the Lord assures him that this is how he says, no. And he describes the various siddhis you can get out of various things. So again, he tells him these are the type of siddhis you can get by. Even through devotion, you will acquire certain siddhis. But he warns Uddhava. But Uddhava, remember that these siddhis are in a way they are a type of method of catching you and keeping you to this world, because obviously they offer only things which are available in the world. But the greatest of all these things, just avoid all these siddhis and concentrate your mind alone on me, as I told you. That like the wasp which keeps on looking at that little worm in such a way of concentration, because of that he gets a form of that the wasp which he is saying. So similarly, if you concentrate, the mind which is concentrated on the objects of the world will take on the form of the world. The mind which is concentrated on me will take on my form. And therefore, Uddhava, think only of me. surrender all your heart and mind and soul and body to me, and I assure you that I will take care of you. This he has again said this in the Gita also. He has told Sarvadharman Paritteja Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. Only me, depend only on me. Having given over all your dharmas, all your activities, all your thoughts, all your deeds, everything you having given out to me, relax and sit back, Uddhava. I will carry you like the mother kitten carries its kitten. The kitten, has nothing to do. The kitten will say meow, 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 and the mother cat will come and carry it by the scruff of his neck and take it from place to place. The monkey, on the other hand, if there's plenty of monkeys here, you will find the monkey has to make his own effort. The monkey catches hold of the mother's belly, and the mother jumps from branch to branch. And if the monkey leaves the mother, that's it. It will fall, 60 feet down on the ground and be smashed a bit. But the self-effort is there in the Jnana Yoga. But in Bhakti Yoga, he says, no, effort is only to concentrate on me. Once having invested your heart on me, once having invested your mind in me, it is my duty to see that you will cross over this ocean of samsara without any difficulty. Therefore, Uddhava, and therefore all of us, this is the greatest lesson of the Bhagavatam, which has told that ananya chintayanto mam ye jana padyupasade tesham nitya abhyuktanam yogakshemam vahami aham vahami. I myself will look after the needs of the devotee, wherever it is, whatever she does, whatever she does. Nothing can harm, because this is the promise made by the Lord, that he who has invested his... I told you we have invested already two mantras, we have invested in that, the glorious mantra of Narayana. And when Gajendra said in the last moment, Narayana, Gilaguru, Bhagavan Namaste. So his entire, that just one call was enough for him to leave everything and rush forward to help his devotee in distress. So never ever think that you're alone, that you're too poor, that you don't know how to meditate, that you don't know how to, sing beautiful songs, that you don't know anything about the Bhagavad. You've never heard even one word of, you have never even, read the Bhagavatam, or you've never read the Upanishads don't worry about all that, O Arjuna, because I myself give you my solemn promise. Just invest yourself in me, your heart in me, and I will take you like the mother kitten, like the cat keeps its little, like mother cat takes its little babies and carry you to the end of your life. And thus he says, he will, then many things he tells him, which we will be saying, I think, after the break? He has already told us again and again. He gives how bhakti is the greatest of all, because he says just as gold, when it is heated up, all the dross is removed from the glows, and it glows with all its purity. So also that mind which comes into contact with me, who's ever invested in me, such a mind loses even all the impurities it has. Any sin that the man has committed even will totally be wiped out by contact with me, as it was with, he has given already examples of those great souls who had come into contact with him, and therefore they had totally lost all their negative qualities in him. And then he gives us as he says, he asks him, what are the qualifications? How do we know about true bhakta? He says, as a person who, when he hears the stories of God, he gets horripilation. His throat is struck. He cannot speak because of gadgadaya. He cannot speak even properly outside because his voice is so choked when he's talking about his beloved. When every action of his, when he even when he's alone and he thinks of the great glories of God, when he remembers how he saved me from that, how he helped me in this, then at that time he just laughs aloud. And he doesn't know where he is. He's totally away from this worldly things. And sometimes he cries for no reason when he thinks, oh my God, how he has helped me, how he has been so kind to me. Look at the way he is. And at that time, this man cannot even speak. He cannot even do anything because when he's totally overwhelmed with the thought of that glorious that glorious being who has totally conquered him and with whom he has had so much of relationship. That is the only relationship he's ever had. There's no relationship as great as this relationship. So that relationship was with that. These are the qualifications. Sometimes they dance and they dance and sing because their mind is not on this. They're not bothered what will people think of me, how will the world look at me. That's not their botheration there, because to them the world, as other people know it, do not exist anymore. Their world is totally and completely enveloped by that supreme being alone. So why should they care what the world thinks of them? It matters not to them. So sometimes, like even like Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and Sri Shirdi Baba and all, you'd find they throw away their clothes, because their clothes are what is a portion of that whole the world has on them. So they don't want even that. They sing and dance totally naked. Such is this the picture of this bhakta which he has given. And he gives, of course, when he asks him that Brahma, at one time the four Kumaras had gone to Brahma, their father Brahma, and they had asked him, tell me, how is it we can get away from this attraction of course you'll find in the whole sometimes he takes you to the heights of bhakti, sometimes he keeps coming back because he wants to tell people how are the different methods by which you can gain that bhakti. So then, of course, the greatest method, he says, only through satsang. But again, all the other things, like even the Vibhuti Yoga is given here, as we see in the Bhagavad Gita, because then the mind of man slowly, from going to the small things, he can see him in the greatest of all things. It's like teaching a child an alphabets, because if you teach a child that small little things, that this is an alphabet, you write small a, the child doesn't know. So you write a in a big, like this, two crosses and one in between. So the child learns to how to see that big capital in it, how to see the alphabets in the big capitals. So he learns to recognize that these are the capitals. Only then, slowly you teach him. But this is also A. This is also B. This is also E. So slowly from the big to that small is all that the child. So also we are also the same way. So he gives the Vibhuti Yoga. He tells him, see me in the Himalayas, see me in the Ganga, see me in the sun, see me in the moon, see me in the stars, see me in all the glorious manifestations of in the cosmos. First learn to see me in that. Then you will realize that I am in the worm, in the slime, in the mud, in everything. Learn to see me, having seen me in Rama, learn to see me in Ravana also. That is the way that he is bringing out the greatness of that, glories of that God. So the glorious manifestations are said. Then he tells him, just like he tells him about the meditation also, just as he says in Bhagavad Gita, all the very simple methods of meditation, how you can, his methods of simplicity itself. He said, sit in a proper place, sit in a proper position, and allow the mind. The mind is like a child. It keeps on wandering here, it hears a sound there, it runs there, he gets a smell here, he gets up and goes there. Anything which attracts his mind, he will run and go to that. He cannot sit in one place. The mind of man is the same thing. The mind is always attracted to the external objects. That mind again and again and again, as you would bring a child back. No, my dear, that is not the correct thing for you. Come and sit here, finish your breakfast, have a little of this porridge is good for you, or all those things are not good for you. Similarly, that mind which keeps running after here and there, in all these various places, searching for what it knows not. Such as that mind should be slowly weaned from something, wooed with little delights, and say, this is a delight which is far superior to any of the delight the world can give you. Therefore, keep bringing him back again and again, and investing that mind in me. That is the best method, he says, of meditation. Then he describes the 4 stages of life. He actually goes through all. He says, this is what Bhishma, at one time, you remember in the Bhishma Sudhi, when Yudhishthira went to see Bhishma. He took Yudhishthira to see Bhishma because Yudhishthira was not convinced that when everybody else told him this is more, that Yudhishthira still felt guilty. I'm the one who has killed them. I'm the one who did this. I'm the one. That in Gita he says, Vimudha nanubhashyanti. He does that. He does that. Kartahamedi manyade. He thinks himself, this foolish man. Kartahamedi manyade. He thinks, I am the doer. I have done this. I have seen this. I have achieved this. I am a glorious person, great. And he's a Vimudha. He's a fool who thinks that because it's my force of consciousness, my prakriti, which has forced him to do all these things. And thus he says, in the 4 stages of life, he comes down to where, as Bhishma has advised Yudhishthira, that time I am telling you, as usual, he always likes to glorify his own devotees. He never likes to take credit for anything for himself. He said, as Bhishma that day told Yudhishthira, so I shall repeat to you, O Vidura. So these 4 stages of life are Brahmacharya, Grihasthashma, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. These 4 stages, actually, one should lead to the other. That is, in each of these, the 4 goals of life are actually intimately connected with the 4 of these. That means dharmartha, kama, moksha are connected with these 4 things. The first is brahmacharya. There he should be his duty. What is his duty? To his guru, to study, not to set fire to buses and sling mud at the government and say things about and how this is so bad and the country is being run so badly. That's not his duty at that moment. If he becomes a politician, he can say such things. But at the moment, his duty as a brahmachari is just to do whatever his guru tells him, to throw himself wholeheartedly into what his learning and so on and so forth. So that is the Purushartha which is enjoined or is combined with that brahmachari is dharma. Then as a householder, he can, artha can come, as artha wealth, artha and kama, both can come into the life of the brahmachari and the grihasthashrami. There's no harm in acquiring. In fact, the grihasthashrami he really has to have some wealth. Without, if he doesn't have, he's also poor, poverty stricken. How can he help others? And it's the duty of the grihasthashrami to help those who are poorer than himself. 1/3 of his money should be kept in charity, given for charity. 1/3 should be spent in his own family. 1/3 can be saved for future. This thing only the grihasthashrami is supposed to save for the sake of some others. Brahmachari or the sannyasi should not save anything. They should live for the minute, for the day only. Grihasthashrami can, and that type of pleasure, that is the call of the sex and the call of different. The love and lust are totally different. And the Grihasthashrami has a duty to his wife. He has a duty to satisfy her. And he has a duty to the future generations to produce a child and bring him up in the correct possible way, because that is his contribution to this great world life, and that he should do with full belief that if he produces a child, if he gives some knowledge of the spirit to that in one soul has been saved. One soul knows the correct way how to live life. So these are then after that he says, most of us cling to life, even though we are old and we are really not fit to continue with the usual way of life. Still we cling to it because we have grown lazy, we are old, we're lazy, and we want to keep on, cling on to whatever we left of our power, which we think. And all the time that there's this thing, only looking at the TV, finding out what, because they can't do much else, you see. So the children will buy one TV and putting him in his room and say, you just sit here and watch it, just like we do with young children. When you want to feed them, you put them in front of the TV. And difficult children to feed. So while they're looking, they say, you'll put in their mouth. Similarly, this old man is put in front of the TV And he's told, come on, you just watch the TV. We'll bring you some food now and again. So that's all you need. So this is a type of life when these people have an old age, because they can't do anything for themselves. And they are not bothered. Instead of wasting their time watching this unnecessary serials, which repeat the same old thing day after day, year after year, he should direct his thoughts, he said, to God, who alone, because that is his goal, that because he's already shifting to the fourth state of life, that is, and the fourth Purushartha, that is of moksha. So he, at that time, in those days, of course, it was given that the Vanaprastha should slowly, along with his wife, he should go to a ashram. Nowadays, it can be an ashram, but in olden days, it was a forest. And they would take up, slowly lead their mind away from, because it's very difficult. The mind who's been used to all these comforts, at least the lovely, nice, soft cushions and beds and stuff which I have, how can I leave it and go and sleep on a hard, wooden plank, or not even that sometimes. In those days, it was like that. In these days, of course, the ashrams of one of the fantastically five-star hotel ashrams you have in Rishikesh, and you can even book a room. You can make a room for yourself, for you and your wife, and you go and stay there. And when in a way that's good, because the children don't have the responsibility of looking after you, and they don't have the shame of having put their parents in an old age home. No, I mean, it is much better, I think, if they put them into a really good old age home than having these people listen to the old people listening. Oh my God, the daughter-in-law will say, how long are we going to have to bear? I mean, as it in Mumbai and all, we have just 2 rooms, and 1 room is taken away. When my parents come, where are they going to stay? And this sort of quarrels and this thing, they are forced to hear. Much better they are put in old age home or an ashram, build them a house and stay there. But even there, they cling to this whole. They're fooled into a belief that the ashram has a discipline sort of a thing. Early morning, you go and get up and go and sit there and do some meditation. After that, there is something. But all the time, 8 o'clock, I think, is breakfast time. Oh, good. Today, every day they have a different breakfast in the ashram. So that's nice. I think it's today's idlis. So let's go fast. And that's all they're really bothered about, even when they're living in the ashram. And then this sort of life goes on, because it totally fooled into belief that I'm in an ashram, so I'm a great soul. I've given up all my life, worldly life. What have they given up? Nothing at all. Because they have just shifted their residence from one bondage to another bondage. That is all. This bondage, they make believe bondage, that because every day they are attending some satsang or something and some reading or something, and all they'll be falling asleep half the time, and and then these things, they have totally befooled themselves that they are high up on the scale of evolution. Because look at me, I mean, I don't bother about staying in the home. I'm so good. I'm in an ashram. So even that is sort of fooling by now. That's the whole Vanaprastha ashram. And the fourth is, of course, sannyas. After this, it is said, according to us, they should leave this, even that wife they should leave, because in the Vanaprastha ashram, the wife also will be there. Even this they should leave and go alone, because the first thing you remember, Vidura was going, he left the whole of his comfort of his palace. He was the great prime minister of the Kuru dynasty, and yet he left everything and walked out, and he walked alone, because he said, if I have even one other person with me, I will be forced to some gossip, this thing, I will have dependence on someone else, and I will not be focused on what I'm supposed to do. So absolutely incognito, he goes all. So also the sannyasi, after having left everything, he should simply, in those days, of course, I don't say that all of you, in fact, how can all of you go to the forest? Because as it is, our cities and towns are so totally crowded, and a whole lot of you go into the forest also will be crowded. And there'll be no place to actually stay anywhere, and they'll make it all dirty, and the waters are being made dirty. So that's not what he just describes these as, because in those days, of course, it was possible and they did do it. They had far better wills maybe, but now at least this much we can do. All he's asking you to do is not not the actual external renunciation of anything. How much can you renounce? Can you renounce your food? Can you renounce your clothes? You're great Tyagi, what have you renounced? Even if you have shifted to an ashram, what have you renounced actually? You cannot renounce any of the things which you are used to have. All you have done is, as I said, shifted from one side to another side. So that is the renunciation, is the inner tyaga. Without that tyaga of your ego, of that which pulls you down, without renouncing that, there is no place that you can go in which you can remain, get moksha, mukti. Because the idea is that you can, in the midst of, that is the teaching of the Gita, in fact, then even in the midst of the world, in the midst of the hub, the very hub of the world, when there's noise here, when there's people are pulling you down, when things are being going in a way that the world is around you and trying to pull you down, even in the midst of that, like the Padmapatra Vibhambasa, like the lotus leaf in the water, you should be above all this, because that is the greatest sannyas. Sannyas without inner renunciation is no sannyas. External sannyas without inner renunciation is no sannyas at all. You may wear orange robes, you may grow a beard, you may have gridlocks, you may have nothing except a pot or something to carry with you, yet that this feeling of malice is there. The two bhikshus, two sannyasis had gone to the Himalayas, and they were occupying two caves, one next to the other, and they had to renounce anything. All they had was a kaupina and a water bottle and this kamandal. That's all they possessed. So they thought themselves very great. And it happened that one of them started to have, people nowadays, if they'll find you out wherever you are, if they think there's one great sannyasi, somebody in fact had written and asked me, I want to come to Rishikesh, please take me to some great saints. I wrote back to him and said, I personally don't know any great saints here. There may be some in the Himalayas. You are welcome to go and look for them yourself. Anyway, the fact is that if you find some great soul somewhere, they will all start making a move towards you. So that cave, so very soon, one of them had so many devotees and so many people coming there, and then of course, once the devotees come, you've had it. That's the end of your renunciation, because then you think you are a big guru, and people fall at your feet and try to pull you down. That's exactly what they do. They pull you down. Even though they seem only be touching your feet, they're actually pulling you down, because your ego rises up like crazy when two people touch your feet. So then they go there, and then the man in the next cave was filled with envy. How is it that we are both sitting in exactly the same type of caves, and we own exactly the same, and how is it that this fellow has so many devotees? What about me? Why don't they come to me? He's burning with jealousy. He has given up everything. He's gone to the Himalayas. He thinks he's a great soul. What has he given up? Just because he has only one kaupina. And even that, if one day he finds that kaupina has been taken off by something, he's crazy with this thing. What happened to my kaupina? He's got only two, you see. And he feels terrible, because such possessiveness about that, such possessiveness. Possessiveness does not depend on the number of possessions you have. Possessiveness is a quality of the soul, of the mind. And a man, as I said, who has only one kaupina, only one little kamandalu, he might be as possessive of his thing as a rich man. In fact, the rich man may be not so possessive, because he's got enough. He's happy to distribute something else to people here and there. He doesn't matter to him if he chucks off a few millions here and there. Even that doesn't matter to him. But this man, he's got only one thing, and he clings to it with all. What is the point of that? That there's no question that there's that idea of renunciation is not there at all, because, as I said, possessiveness is a quality of the mind, and it does not depend on the number of possessions you own. So this, he describes all describes the type of, and how to. Then Uddhava asks him, but somehow, Master, when we live in the world, somehow it appears that, people's tongues are so bad. People are so cruel and wicked, and we are hurt by their behavior, by their tongues as well as their behavior. How do we get out of it? And then he gives us a great story called the Bhikshu Gita, which is about a Brahmin. Brahmin he was a Brahmin. He had enough of money. He had a house and wealth and everything. He knew he had a lot of relations and sons and wife, not wives, but only one wife. But he had all these things which automatically should have made a man happy. But this man happened to be a miser of the highest order. So even though he had so much of money, he wouldn't even spend one little naya paisa on anything that not even what he wanted, and least of all even on his children. Even if the children want something, he said, no, that's better. You don't have this much. It's not. I don't have enough money for all that. If the wife wanted a sari, he said, you already got 2 saris. When you wear one, and then when the other, wash the other, and then wear the other one, and that's until it falls down. You have only that. Mind you, the man had enough money to give her a chest full of saris if she wanted. But that man was so miserly, and according to miserliness of any type is a great sin, because it somehow corrodes your mind that wealth is more important than anything else. So this bhikshu one day naturally, because he never did any puja, he never had any rituals in his house, and he never gave anything in charity, to the priest or the Brahmins or gave any charity to. He never fed any cow or cat or dog. If he saw a cat, he'd bring with a stick and chase him out, because even if it was hungry and he had food in his, even though he had food in his house. So naturally, the gods themselves will get angry with such a person, and one by one, all his wealth dissipated. He started losing everything. Eventually, he had nothing at all. And all this money which he was so hankering about, was so keen about, and he was hanging on to it, because wealth for the sake of wealth alone is the greatest of sin. Because wealth is only meant for us to do something in the world, to give us things which we need, to give your people or your family what they need. But if wealth is kept only for the sake of wealth and worshipped as if, and Lakshmi alone is worshipped without any even idea of Vishnu, then Lakshmi herself very soon she will leave you. And this is exactly what happened to this bhikshu, to this Brahmana. He lost one by one, he lost everything he owned. And at last, naturally, his wife and children, whom he had never taken care of properly, for whom he had always bought the worst of everything. Always he was only conscious, is this how much does this cost? If it costs extra, no way. Even if it's for a wife or his children, he will only get the worst of everything for them. So the moment he lost all, they were just staying with him because still he had some money and he could feed them, and at least. Then when he lost everything, they all decided, this is, along with his wealth, all these people also deserted him, and he threw him out of the house. He said, you go, there's nothing we can do for you, get out of this house. So this Brahmin, he went from place to place. Naturally, everybody knew him in that village. Everybody knew that he was the greatest miser there ever. And they have never helped any soul in that village before. So all of them, as he went, they spat upon him. They shooed him away. They beat him. When he managed to get up, nobody gave him anything even to eat. And even when he went for begging and they managed to get something little, they would come and throw stones in it so that he would not be able to eat even that little what he got. So he went, but somehow, for some great reason, by God's grace, I would say, this man started feeling a sudden, total dispassion to the life he had been leading. He went away from here, went to other villages, and there wherever he went, he found that people were only shooing him off, spitting on him, beating him with sticks, and he hardly had anything to eat. And yet he thought to himself, This is the song he's supposed to have sung, that nobody is the cause of my grief. I alone am the cause of my grief. It's I alone who, because of my own actions, because of my own ways that I've treated other people, and the fact that I've been so miserly and hoarded the money which had been meant, which God had given to me for the sake of looking after others, that I did kept only for myself, and therefore I am the cause of my own unhappiness. I am the cause of all which I am suffering now. And a great passion came up in him, and he was no longer attached to anything, and he wandered off as a liberated soul. That is the Bhikshu Gita, and that he advises to this Uddhava, and he says, so that is how you should, if the world despises you and looks down upon you, don't worry about it, because there is a God, and God alone is your friend. That's a good opportunity for you to understand that God is alone your friend. And also it's an opportunity for you to look into yourself and find out that all my problems, all the worries and sorrows of undergoing now is entirely due to my own actions and not due to others. They are not the cause of my unhappiness. I alone am the cause of my unhappiness. And that's he. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. These few verses, these few chapters are one of the most heart-rending chapters of the whole of the Bhagavatam, because we can feel something what Uddhava felt, because we are also coming to the end of this glorious discussion of the Bhagavata, which has been, heartstrings have been torn by this whole thing, and we also feel, how are we ever going to go? How will we lead these 7 days? Have been like paradise on earth, and we have enjoyed everything, and now have to leave it that in a tiny bit of way we can understand what Uddhava felt when to part with his beloved Lord. And before we go into that, number of other chapters had gone through. That is, first of all, he gives him the method of formal worship. How it should be you can worship God. He said, you can worship me either in the sun or water or fire or in an idol or in a yantra or the many other ways, a photo, all these ways, or in a saint, or in all these things are the obvious external types of worship you can use. And he gives him a full, how these, he can, patram pushpam phalam toyam, yome bhaktya prayachadi. So he says, just like in Gita, he says, Arjuna, but whatever you offer to me, whatever you do, it would be a leaf or a flower or a little bit of water, whatever it is that you offer to me with love, and that I shall accept with the love, according to the love which is given to me, and I shall bless the person who gives it to me. But Uddhava, I'll tell you something. He who can see me only in the idol and worships me only in the idol is the lowest of all the bhaktas, and he says. And he who sees me both in the idol and in the saints and so on, he is the second form of bhaktas, he says. But the Uttama Bhakta, the BHAGAVATAM Uttama, is one who sees me everywhere, wherever in the idol, in the people, in the sun, in the moon, in the sea, in the waters, in the river, in the plant, whatever it is, where he sees me and me alone shining in the stars above, in the eyes of the people in front of me. Such a person is the Uttama Bhakta, one who can, and such a person, without any shame, you should prostrate to me in the form of a dog or an outcast, or one who's an eater of dogs. The lowest of the low, it does not matter to me. It's just that if he sees me in all, without shame, bow to him. You may think this is a difficult thing. After all, we will be clapped in some lunatic asylum if we go around prostrating to all the dogs and cows and so on in this thing. But the fact is, mentally we can prostrate to whatever we see. Make it a habit. That because so long we have been brainwashed into thinking that you are different, I am different, this is a dog, this is a cat, this is a human being. That method of thinking should be taken away, he says. That method of thinking, so that wherever you see, whatever you look at, even a dog or an outcast or a pariah is the same. he should mentally worship me in whatever way he can. He should see everything that I am shining in everything. And he says at the end of the puja, Matyo yada shiro matpadiyo katva bahubhyam cha parasparam prabannam pahimamisha mrityugrahanavad. He at the end of the puja, he should, even if it's an official puja, he should prostrate himself like a log at my feet, crossing his hands so that his right hand touches my right leg, and his left hand touches my left foot. Because when you bow down before God, He rises up for you so that you can touch His feet. And just like that, falling like a log in front of me, He said, your entire mind, body, spirit, everything should be placed before me, and and thus you shall be blessed. Whatever you offer, as I said again and again, Uddhava, it's not what you offer that is important to me, but the attitude, the mental attitude with which you offer to me, that is most important. If you have nothing, even nothing else, just mentally offer me. Why should you not offer me anything? There is nothing. There's nothing that the mind can think of anything. There was, just to give you a funny story in the middle, because I think we're all getting a bit serious, and God always likes to see the amusing part of every life. There was once a man, he was sitting and he was trying to do mental puja, because mental puja is the best of all. And lot of problem on his face, and the Guru was sitting beside me. I said, what is your problem? He nodded him. I said, what's your problem? Why are you looking so terrible? He said, this garland I made for him is not going over his head. So this man said, what is wrong with you? You are doing a mental this thing. Make a bigger garland, for heaven's sake. You don't need real flowers for that. So mental worship, there's nothing you really need. No, in external bits of worship you may need something. But in a mental worship, why should you bother about whether you have more flowers or less flowers? Oh, nothing of that. Because anything you want to offer, you can offer him all the gold and all the world, all the diamonds. What does it matter? Anything you can offer, because the mind is full. That what is most important is the fact that you offer it with love. So he says, at the end of that puja, Martyo yada tyakta samasta karmani vedidatma vijigosho me tadamritattvam abhidattadaya mayam tadatma bhuyaya kalpadevai. That the man who totally surrenders to me, surrenders every bit of me, like his mind, body, soul, everything is surrendered to me. He is such a person, Uddhava. I myself will take him up in my arms. I will carry him. There is nothing, he will have no worries. There's nothing in his life which is more worthy of attainment than such a life, such a total renunciation, such a total giving over, total abandonment of his everything to me who is the master of his whole soul, who is the master of this whole world. This alone is the thing that I have asked you for, Uddhava. So he asks him, oh Uddhava, my dear child, have you heard enough? Are you satisfied? Are you happy? Are you free from all delusions which have been caused by the world? And Uddhava says, the darkness of ignorance which has shrouded me, my attachment to my own people, this Dashara, the Andagas, the Yadavas, and so many other Bojas, that attachment has been broken away from me, my Lord. Just as a person who stands near a fire is not affected fear of darkness or fear of the cold. So in the fire of your presence, how can I be afraid of anything? The world can hold no fear for me, because you have been my constant soul and support. Therefore, he said, oh Uddhava, therefore, I tell you, you have to go. You have to go to Badrikashram. Your path is different from me. Fortunate indeed you are that you have at least spent that much of time with me. But now it's time for parting. But only our bodies will ever part, Uddhava. If you remember even a bit of what I've told you. I am a part of you. I can never be parted from you. I'm always with you. Wherever you go, in death or life or birth or death, again and again, even if you are born 100 times, which you will, of course, you will not be. Remember that I am ever with you, Adava. But at the moment, our bodies have to be parted. So, go to, he said, transcending all the other causes of all the three gunas, transcending all this, I ask you to leave. And so Uddhava says his eyes were flowing with tears. He could not speak a word. At last he said, Namostude Mahayogin Prabanna Manshadimam Yada Tvacharanam Bhoje Radisya Danabayini Namostude Mahayogin, hey Mahayogin, I have totally surrendered to you. He placed his head at his feet and said, Oh Mahayogin, I have totally surrendered to you. Help me that all my life I will have a remembrance of you in my life all the time. That is the only wish I have, the only blessing I crave for you, that you will ever remain with me and I will never get caught in the turmoil of the world again. So saying, he went, he circumambulated the divine presence 3 times. And then with many a backward glance, he went back. He went back a few steps. Then he looked at Krishna and he saw he was watching him with eyes filled with love. He ran back and again prostrated to him at his feet and said, I cannot leave you, my Lord. Please don't ask me to leave you. Help me, help me. So the Lord said, Oh, Uddhava, in my previous incarnation as Rama, Bharata was in the same situation, and I had given him my sandals, my padukas, which I had given it to him, and he left holding the padukas. Therefore, do I give my padukas to you because I have no more use for them, O Uddhava. And he gave it to them, and Uddhava took those holy sandals and placed it on his head, and he walked forward. And again he looked back and looked back. He didn't know how to be. And the tears were flowing so much from his eyes. He couldn't say a word. He looked back. And again he came. 2, 3 times he came back again and prostrated to him. At last Bhagavan, out of his compassion, gave him that feeling that I'm Ahamatma Gudakesha Sarva Bodha Shahesada. I am that Atma in every creature. Oh, Arjuna here told him that feeling, that knowledge was given to him, to Uddhava also. So this great Bhakta, that Jnana Bhakta, this greatest of all Bhaktas of the Lord, he slowly went backwards, took backward steps, slowly, looking at that beloved form which he knew in this bodily form he would never see again. So one can imagine the terrible plight, the mental anguish which Uddhava felt, because having lived with his bodily form for so long, how was he going to? At least in our case, we have never been in his bodily form. So in that respect, we can know he's ever with me. We can have intellectually, we can have that conviction that he is ever with us. But Uddhava, you can imagine having lived with this bundle of bliss in this form of bliss all his life. How could he ever bear to be parted? Again and again he went back, and at last he said, thou art the first cause, the final goal and path of the whole universe, and therefore I bow to you again and again. Allow me to give me the strength to depart. And the Lord blessed him, and slowly he got the strength to depart. And from far again he looked, and he saw that there was a glowing light about him. He had taken on his form of Vishnu himself, and he saw that form, and slowly he left the place and went. And as you know, that we saw in the beginning itself that he met Vidura on the way, and he gave him the news of all the destruction of the Yadavas, and how the God himself had left that truth which was resplendent, which is ever shining in the whole world, that truth which had taken a form Satyatmagam, the form of a human being, that truth, now at last had decided that enough of this, I shall remove myself from this particular plane of existence. So at last Uddhava, the great devotee, he leaves him and sorrowfully, step by step, backward steps he takes and leaves and departs from him. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. After Uddhava had left, Bhagavan told him, go soon, because this is the world as you know it, Uddhava, will change very soon. Do not wait to see the differences of the world you have known. And in 7 days from now, the whole of Dwaraka will go under the sea. So do not wait for that, Uddhava. Go immediately, he says. And so Uddhava goes. And after that, who comes is, he tells, Daruka comes, no, sorry. Before that, after that, Daruka comes. No, before that, sorry, the Holocaust of all these portents are seen, as I told you. There were howling of wolves and the growling of bears and all sorts of terrible portents. There was raining blood and stones and lightning and all the time. And they were all held in a thrall of fear, the Dwarakaites who had enjoyed so much. So Lord Krishna told them, this is a time when we should go. Let us all go to Prabhasa, the Tirtha called Prabhasa, along which is still there, and we will go there, and then we'll worship God, the Almighty, in all different ways. And let us go. They all got into their boats, and in the meantime, he said the women and children should be taken away to that island called Shankachuda, which is now known as Bet Dwaraka. And everyone, no living creature should be left in Dwaraka, because in 7 days it will go down. Then all of them left, and they were particularly told they were not to take any liquor, they were not to take any intoxicating stuff with them. But the Yadavas, who had already under the throes of their destiny, they very surreptitiously hoarded many casks of a very heady wine called Maireya, and thus they left for this Prabhasa. And when they went there, for some time there was only the yagas and the yajnas and all were done in the beginning. But after that, slowly, the casks of wine and so on started to come out. And slowly, whatever fate had decreed to them, I was instigated by the fact that they became more and more intoxicated by the wine also which they had brought. And in that state of mind, they started a quarrel between themselves. It was started by Satyaki, who told Kritamarma, you look at you have killed the killer of innocent. Look at all of you, watch while Abhimanyu, the killer of an innocent boy, and Kritavarma said, what about you? Cut off the head of Bodhisattvas when he was sitting in a trance, in samadhi. And thus they started bringing out all the things which each one, and they started fighting with each other, totally oblivious of that. Father with son, son with father, brother with brother. It was as if that some sort of madness had caught hold of them. And even their whole aspect changed. And when they were not allowed to take weapons, but they had a few weapons. And when that was exhausted, they caught hold of the grass which was growing. We remember the pestle which had been ground, and the dust had come onto that Prabhasa, the banks of Prabhasa, and they had grown like huge bit of grass. And the moment they took hold of the grass, it became hard and firm like swords. And with that, they started killing each other, and totally disregarding who they were killing. They even turned towards Balarama and Krishna and threatened them. And Balarama and Krishna also took hold of the grass and started fighting and killing them indiscriminately. So it's like, a fire started in a bamboo grove by the rubbing of the trees, the bamboos themselves between themselves, and the whole grove will be blown up in a few hours. So also these Yadavas, maddened by their whole vision, clouded by the Lord's Maya, and maddened by their desire to somehow conquer who they thought were their foes. Actually, they were not their foes, but only their own people. And they slowly, all of them, one by one, they fell, destroyed by their own hands. At last, only Krishna and Balarama were left, and Balarama also sat on the seashore, and he went into a state of samadhi, and you could see that the spiral rose from him, because he was the avatar of Shesha, the snake on which Lord Vishnu stays. And then the Lord knew that the last act in the drama of his life had to be played now. And he went into the forest and sat down under a peepal tree with his left foot resting on his right thigh. And at that time, there was a hunter called Jada, who was a young boy. He had got that little piece of iron which had been left, and he took that and made an arrowhead out of that. And as I said, this was the last act. He who had brought his guru's child back from the dead, he who was capable of doing anything. He had all the great miracles which he had, yet he refused to do any of these things as far as his own body was concerned, because he wanted to show that having taken on a human form, he had to go through all that a human being had to go through. So he made no efforts to continue with this form in this on this planet. So that the boy was in the forest, and he saw the Lord's foot, and it looked to him like rose. It was a beautiful little rose petal foot, and he mistook it for the face of a deer, and he shot at it from this boy's this thing. Then the boy ran forward to see the deer, to get the deer, and was shocked to find by this time the Lord's form had taken on that of Vishnu. Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, everything was there, and he was in a state of such great exaltation. He knew that it was a divine being that he had shot, inadvertently shot. So he ran forward and prostrated himself at the Lord's feet and said, forgive me, I am indeed a killer of animals. Please kill me immediately so that I will not go through this again. And that I don't want this life which has made such a great mistake. So the Lord said, arise, O Jada, you have not done anything which was not my wish. It is because I wished it that you did it. And not only will I not punish you, I will see that you will get the highest state of all. And at that moment, Jara actually saw a Vimana, an aeroplane, coming down with the Lord's insignia on it, the Garuda on it. And the Lord said, you may enter that and proceed before me to that, my Vaikunda, my abode. So Jara was amazed at this, and then he went in. And at that time, Daruka, his charioteer, Daruka, had been searching desperately for him everywhere. He couldn't find him. At last he came to him and said, Oh Lord, I have found you through the perfume of the tulasi you have on your Vanamala. And have followed that perfume and reached here. And he threw himself at his feet and said, exactly as Uddhava said, he said, Oh Lord, what can I do? Please do not leave me. I have served you faithfully all your life. I have been your charioteer since I was a young man. So please don't leave me also. So the Lord said, Daruka, I am leaving that. Decided that he would, that was the end of his role as Krishna Vasudeva, and therefore I have to go. But I will give you some orders which you have to follow, and that is return to Dwaraka immediately. And if anybody is left there are some old people, my father, mother, and others are still there. If there is anybody there, take them away immediately. I have already given instructions to Arjuna through another way. Arjuna did not get actual instructions, but I have told that Arjuna will come soon, and he will take you and all the rest of the people there back to Indraprastha. So Narada went round and prostrated round him with tears flowing down his eyes. Narada said, and the Bhagavan said, and as for you, O charioteer, remember that I am the charioteer in the heart of every human being. I will be there with you and with every human being. And fear not, I will ever protect you. And so Dharika was somewhat comforted. How much comfort can you get with any words when you have forced to depart from that holy sight of that, and that holy presence which he had lived with for so many years? And eventually, with tears flowing down his eyes, he slowly went back. And from far he saw the gods had already come. And there was a big glow, as if there was a big glow. And just as there is, how can that which is ever full, how can it go anywhere? It can neither go nor can it come, because it is ever full. Purnamada Purnamidam. But yet, nobody, even the gods was unable to see how he disappeared. There was a sudden streak of lightning or nothing. He was there 1 minute and he was not there the other minute. And that was, and only the beautiful perfume of the tulsi and the beating of the lundubis and the drums which all the gods had come. But what were they beating for? He had already left this world. So Dwaraka went back to Dwaraka and gave the news of the terrible news of the death of the destruction of the whole Yadava clan, and also of the destruction of their own sons, to Vasudeva and Devaki and all the wives of Krishna and all the wives of Balarama, and they all, of course, naturally devastated to hear this. And they all decided to throw themselves into the fire and not stay in this world anymore. At that time, Arjuna comes, and in the Shanti Parva of the Mahabharata, you will find that Arjuna gives a very graphic description of Dwaraka going under the sea. In fact, artist painting of that, this is in the new book, Vanamali, new book called Dwarakanatha. So he actually describes the whole scene in the Mahabharata, and then he takes all the women and whoever were left. There were not many left. All of them had preferred to give up their lives. So he took them back and as I said in the first few chapters, we had mentioned this before, because the Mahabharata is always the background of the whole life of Krishna in Dwaraka. And therefore, we had already mentioned how that when he tried to take these, whose Gandivam was his greatest bow and all the same arrow, the same chariot, the same man, yet he could not even protect these women against the assault of some hunters who were passing there, and he was not able to protect them, it is said. And he knows, he realizes that every great thing he has ever done, all the glorious acts which he had attributed to his own greatness, he knew that Lord was ever with him, who was his constant companion and his beloved of his own heart. He knew that it was because of him that he could have won any victory. Without him, he can do nothing. So he went back and told this story to Yudhishthira. Of course, Yudhishthira, all of the Pandavas were totally devastated at this, and they realized that they could no longer live in a world which no longer contained Krishna, their beloved Lord. So they all decided, they put you, O Parikshit, on the throne on the throne of the Pandavas. You were put on the throne of Parikshit, and they put Vajranabha, the great grandson, Anirudra's grandson, on the throne of Mathura as the king of this thing. And Dwaraka, the whole of Dwaraka, except for the palace of Lord Krishna, was disappeared. And it is said that today that the temple of Dwarakadish, which is there in Dwaraka, was the original temple had been built by Vajranabha in the same spot as the palace of Lord Krishna had been. So the Pandavas wended their way towards the Himalayas and gave up their lives one by one, because they could no longer bear to remain in this world after the Lord has left. So that is the end of that, this thing, and the end of that particular book 11 ends there on this particular note. So, yes. So that is the end of that, and he says about, we come to the end of book 11, and we are starting next we will be starting Dvadasha Skanda, and here in the Dvadasha Skanda, the Dvadasha Adhyaya, the 12th chapter of the 12th Skanda, the whole of the Bhagavatam will be said. And we, all those who have books or can follow it together, and those who don't have books should listen to it, because it is said, even if you have missed out a word here or there, even if you have gone out during the reading, even if you have not fall asleep while something was being said, all these will be taken away. Please read that skanda through again. After lunch, we will take book 12, which is the last book of the Bhagavatam. And then we will go for the Avabrita Snanam, or the holy in the river Ganga, which will be the grand finale of this memorable event. The mud idol of Lord Krishna, which has been worshipped for these 7 days, will be immersed in the Ganga. The mud out of which it was made will return to the mud, thus showing the ephemerality of this human body. All those who wish to take a dip on this auspicious occasion may do so. Hari Om Tat Sat.